Hey guys, you know who it is, you know that we're the place to be, and all that other stuff here. Today's review, I'm going to be doing a recently review. You know what? This is my first time doing this. You probably see Miss Oliver and Blossom Season 16 reviews, as well as Trent with the Force Phineas and Ferb Season 4 reviews. So, in my channel, today I'm going to have my own audio reviews. And today's review is going to be the reviews of the Arthur season finale and the final season 3 episodes of Big City Green. And let's start off with the Arthur season finale. I didn't get to review it ever since the final season premiered last year ago, but I'm going to do this year. Just like I said, at the end of New Year's Eve 2022 videos, I decided to do a review. Also, this season finale was announced on August 2021. And when I first read the news, I was like, please don't tell me that the show is going to be removed. And my initial thoughts were, no, it's going to be the final season. Because back in the days when I was watching Arthur, I literally gave up watching the show because I felt bored watching it. Not to mention, it's also confusing me that the show is already cancelled. But no, it's still going. The reason why I thought it was cancelled already back in 2021 is because when I was watching something on PBS on my TV, the new episode promos didn't appear. Well, they barely appeared, and I gave up watching the show for some reason. I mean, I don't know which season that I stopped watching, but I did return because after I watched the news, I returned to the show on August 2021 when I finally returned to the shows, and I catch some of the episodes that I already missed. And I finally watched some of the classic series for the first time, even the ones I didn't watch as a kid. And I catch some of the Flash animation episodes that I missed. The ones that I missed, the one with promos that barely appeared. Not to mention that I finally watched all the entire episodes, the whole entire seasons, episodes, shows, and specials. And my opinions on the show had changed. I didn't feel bored watching it anymore, and I started to like it. I also rewatched some of the episodes I watched as a kid, even the ones I didn't remember watching that as a kid. Physically, the seasons from 2007 to 2012. I'm talking of the ones I watched as a kid. Physically, one of the final seasons of the old hand-drawn animation before the Flash animation switched. Another reason why I returned to the show is because back in June 2021, I no longer have cable because my dad couldn't afford money to pay cable subscriptions. If you want to hear my full story, I suggest you watch it on my Bob Chapek rant video, which I already did. Now that we got out of the way, let's continue and review the final season 25 seasons. The first episode of season 25 was Binky Wrestles a Story. Before we talk about the plot, we need to talk about the introduction. So, the opening starts off where Arthur and Buster are waiting in line at the multiplex cinema to see Dark Bunny vs. Bionic Bunny. Okay, first of all, I felt bad for these two because when you wait in line in the movie theaters, you're going to be worried and sad that you're going to miss the premiere. Not to mention that it's going to be very boring waiting in line for a longer time. And second, the title Dark Bunny vs. Bionic Bunny kind of reminds me of Batman vs. Superman because that was a reference and an interesting title we could have. So Arthur and Buster were eating raisins and answering 20 questions while they wait in line, but when they thought the line is over, it keeps going. Not to mention that Binky had finally finished the movie and they tell them what happened to the movie and he mistakenly spoiled it. Binky, you're not supposed to tell them what happened because they haven't seen the movie yet. Not to mention that Binky is telling the cameraman to start the episode, and we're in for a wild ride, folks. And now, the plot. The plot of the episode is that it's take a student to work day, and I was like, more like bring a child/kid to work day. That's an interesting concept. Not to mention that when I was at high school, they call it community. Like, we got jobs during community, and I like the idea. That's neat. I guess they're teaching our kids how to get jobs in community before they could do it at high school. And also, what the heck did they call it shadow and adult? It doesn't make any sense. There's no shadow on it. I know Francie said learn about the job by doing it with them, but Shadow has nothing to do with that concept. Who come up with that sentence? Man, this is the first time I did the nitpick. So, the jobs that the students had was Arthur is going with Mrs. Burns to be the doctor. Buster is going to be a crossing guard with Mrs. Hurley. And then I was like, if you think about littering again, you're fired. Man, it's too bad we didn't get to hear Francine or other students' jobs. Come on, I want to hear what their jobs are they getting. And finally, Binky was expecting to be a race car driver, but instead, he gets to help Buster's mom, Bitsy's Baxter, to be an editor and chief of Elwood City Times. Anyways, after they finish the job, they get to give Ratburn all of the reports of their jobs. Also, why would Binky thought this is going to be fun? It's not going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of stuff that he didn't know, and the editor is going to be too hard for him. And I can understand why Mr. Rabbit didn't want him to switch jobs. It's because, well, if Binky didn't want him to do the jobs, then we wouldn't have an episode. Later, Binky finally made to Elwood City Times, and he imagined he did a report and take a snap at the bank robbery. And then I was like, insert SpongeBob movie references, smile, my eyes. And then Buster arrests him, and then Binky's like, sorry, the journal never revealed his sources. And I was like, yes you did. You did reveal what happened to the Bionic Bunny movie. And after that, Binky met Mrs. Baxter, and then she gave her a tour in the newsroom. They tell us what tips to do in the office, and then later on, they went to the conference room. And when they're at the conference room, they talk about budget cuts, only for Binky to not understand what are they talking about. And guys, this was Tom and Edward in the Mail all over again from season 11. And I like Edward in the Mail. Anyways, while all workers were chatting on the first strike, Binky felt bored about it. Later, Mrs. Baxter asked Binky what story to come up with, only for him not deciding what story to come up with. He was also expecting for bank robberies, but it didn't happen. Later, Mrs. Baxter and the gang went to the park only to teach Binky how to be a reporter. And after that, on the second strike, after he asked the mayor some questions, he tells the information only for Binky to feel bored again. However, I do love the slow motion where a boy was throwing a frisbee at the dog, but then a dog could have crashed on him, like, and then that could have got hurt. And then the mayor's like, have you know the information yet? No, I really don't know. Come on, you stupid brain, make it work. That couldn't be like that. And then, of course, while they're having sandwiches and discuss what report are they going to add, on the third strike, they keep blawing like, say, blah, 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 shut up and stop blawing. And it turns out, he felt bored a little bit, but he was tired. Binky, didn't you forget to sleep earlier and then wake up in the morning just like I did when I go to school? That could be a better work. Then Harry asked Binky if they want to make copies with him, only for him and Harry realize that they're bored making copies. Oh, and then of course, Harry tries to tell Binky whenever he felt bored, try to imagine something exciting. So, I'm guessing this episode was teaching the kids not to feel bored. That could be it. And we got the impression where Harry tries to play catch with the ball with Binky, like, here's a joke for it. Hey Binky, go along, eye on it. You want to get the ball? Then go get him. Alright, I will get it. And fetch! Yes, he strikes one! Later, it was time for Binky to do an editing of the story. So, Mrs. Baxter asked Binky to read the letter, and according to the story, it says, if the recently proposed budget cuts to the sanitation department pass, Elwood City and the surrounding metropolitan areas could have a major trash problem, leading to higher levels of pollution and nearby watershed. And he thought that the topics or the paragraphs doesn't make any sense. So, she decided to ask me to rewrite the whole story. So, I guess they're teaching kids like a 5-paragraph essay, just like I learned in Brain Pop. So, I meant to say is, Mrs. Baxter was asking Binky how to write a better sentences and wrestle with it. And also, according to the title, and when I first heard that, I was like, why was wrestling has to do with news reporters? It doesn't make any sense. So, Binky imagining about wrestling between Red Pen and Sentence. And I really love the animation of how they wrestling, but still, why couldn't Red Pen stab Sentence in the pointy pin instead of punching him? This could have been a good quote to Miss Oliver and Blossom as well. And later on, Red Pen wins. Not to mention that Binky learns how to put a paragraph on News Reporter. And when he got back to Elwood Elementary School, he told all the students about budget cuts of Elwood City trash problems. And finally, at the end of the episode, he even told all the students he learns how to edit the sentence. So, the moral of the episode is, not only you need to think about fun stuff when they're feeling bored, but also they're even teaching the kids how to do a 5-paragraph essay. So, that's it for this episode. But before we end this video, we need to discuss the characters. For one thing, I really love the rivalry with Mrs. Baxter and Binky. I love that idea. But Binky in this episode, he's like Edward from Edward in the Mail. So, that's Binky Wrestles with a Story. And for this episode, like a 10.2 out of 10. A good episode. So, once I find a time, I may do more of these. Especially Season 3, the final Season 3 episode of Big City Green. And yes, including the final episode of Arthur. So, see you on the next review, and take care, everyone.